Well, here we are, Mr. President. This is day 2 of the Senate Democrats' government shutdown. Day 2 since the Democratic leader made the political calculation to do something that, according to a recent survey, even most Democrats don't support. He shut down the government to appease a portion of his party's left-wing base. Makes you shake your head. Who comes up with ideas like this? Well, on Friday, a bipartisan group of senators voted to advance a bill that would have kept the federal government open, provided 6 years of certainty for the state children's health insurance program, which at least 7 Democratic governors have written are in dire straits, allowed ongoing talks to continue on a variety of other important issues that we've been discussing here for a couple of months. Together, Democrats and Republicans had enough votes to pass it. 5 Democrats crossed over and voted against shutting down the government, to keep the government open while we do our work. The House had already passed it. The President was ready to sign it. We were poised to send him this compromise solution and erase the threat of a shutdown. But unfortunately, my friend, the Democratic leader, had other ideas. Now, we all know in the Senate, the minority has the power to filibuster. I support that right from an institutional point of view, but the question is, when do you use it? On Friday, the Democratic leader made the extraordinary and destructive choice to filibuster our bipartisan bill and guarantee the American people a shutdown of their federal government. Now, it's the second day of the Senate Democrat filibuster and the Senate Democrat shutdown of the federal government. Because the president wouldn't resolve months of ongoing negotiations over massive issues in one brief meeting and give the Democratic leader everything he wants, my friend across the aisle has shut down the government for hundreds of millions of Americans. Because he didn't get everything he wanted in one meeting Friday with the president. So who pays the price for that? Health care for needy children, training and resources for our men and women in uniform, care for our veterans who came home, and survivor benefits for families of heroes who did not. Full funding for the CDC, for the NIH, and for routine safety inspections of food and medicine. You know, to most Americans, those sound like, fundamental responsibilities. To the Democratic leader, apparently they sound like hostages ripe for the taking. And all of this was totally unnecessary. There is a broad consensus on both sides of the aisle that DACA and other issues related to illegal immigration require a compromise solution. Almost everybody here, Democrat and Republican, believe we need to get to a solution on the DACA issue and related immigration matters. Bipartisan, bicameral negotiations have been underway for months. But they can go nowhere until Senate Democrats realize the extreme path their leader has charted leads them nowhere. A filibuster of health care for 9 million children, a filibuster of the tools and training that our warfighters need to keep us safe, a filibuster of funding for the federal government itself for hundreds of millions of Americans, all over a tangential issue related to illegal immigration that does not even ripen until March. All of these other things are an emergency. The one non-emergency issue that our friends on the other side are trying to shoehorn into this discussion doesn't reach that status of emergency until March. This is pure folly. The American people know so. That's why in a recent survey, a majority said keeping the government open is a higher priority than shutting down the government over the issue of illegal immigration. That's why headlines all across America are laying the blame for this government shutdown right at the feet of Senate Democrats and their filibuster. Now, the Democratic leader could end this today. We can get past this manufactured crisis and get on to a host of serious issues before us that require thoughtful, bipartisan negotiations. This shutdown is going to get a lot worse tomorrow. A lot worse. Today would be a good day to end it. All we have to do is pass the common sense legislation the Senate is currently considering. Ending a government shutdown and ensuring health care continues for vulnerable children. There is nothing in this measure that my Democratic friends cannot support. So here's the situation. If nothing changes, the cloture vote will be no sooner than 1 a.m. tonight. We could resolve this much earlier if the Democratic leader withdraws his procedural objection and allows the Senate to proceed to a vote. Our constituents want us to end this. Secretary Mattis, our military leaders, and our governors want us to end this, and we can. Today is the right day to do it. Senate Democrats only need to withdraw their filibuster and allow a bipartisan majority to move America forward. If they really care about the big issues, increased defense funding, disaster relief, DACA, and border security, and other important matters that we've been negotiating, and that I would like to bring to the floor, then they will stop their filibuster and this shutdown and let the negotiators get back to work. Everyone has figured this out. This shutdown was a political miscalculation of gargantuan proportions. But it doesn't need to go on any longer. It could stop today. So let's step back from the brink. Let's stop victimizing the American people and get back to work on their behalf.